Again, thanks everyone for sticking around for the last and hope to be a productive day. Oh, go back. Sonopor is a ultrasonic drug delivery system transforming existing therapeutics to achieve ultra-rapid localized drug delivery independent of blood supply with materially higher tissue concentrations of drug and materially lower systemic exposure, allowing for new uses and indications for those drugs across a wide range of existing medications, including anti-infectives, biologics, monoclonal antibodies, and oncolytics. We sit at the intersection of a number of trends from IV to subcutaneous delivery, the use of therapeutic ultrasound, drug repurposing, and improving healthcare efficiency. So what's the problem? Systemic drug delivery. It allows drug to be required to be provided at very high doses to get local concentrations to provide therapeutic benefit. The problem is that we don't often get that benefit because to deliver enough drug would require us to deliver it at toxic amounts. This is particularly difficult in a patient with compromised blood flow, say in a diabetic foot or in a previously irradiated breast cancer patient's tissue. Our solution is called UD2. We use ultrasound and local subcutaneous delivery of drug to deliver drugs at very high efficacy, bypassing the circulatory system at material higher local concentrations with materially lower systemic exposure. In an abdominoplasty PK study, we showed our ability to deliver antibiotics, in this case cefazolin, a first-generation cephalosporin, at 277 times higher local tissue concentration and up to 29 times lower systemic exposure, allowing us to do new treatments and new indications for new therapies for old drugs at much, much higher levels of safety. So what's our special sauce? We use 3 legacy technologies: ultrasound, simple saline, and antibiotics that have been in use for decades, and bring them together for the first time to create something special, allowing these drugs to be used without reformulation with our proprietary ultrasound to have brand new treatments and brand new indications. I'll give you a quick example. We use a drug called Cefazolin for most of our procedures. Cefazolin is a first-generation cephalosporin, been in medical use for 50 years. It's cheap, safe, abundant, generic. We can treat MRSA, methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, with cefazolin using our system. It is not indicated for MRSA right now, and if you go ask a doctor who knows anything about this space and tell them you can treat MRSA with cefazolin, they'll tell you you cannot do that. And then we show them the data, and they join our medical advisory board. Our ultrasound system and proprietary drug delivery vector are covered by 7 existing patents. 10 are in process and various stages of prosecution as well, providing us with a significant patent portfolio to protect us in the marketplace. We start, as I say, with cefazolin. It's our first drug we'll be getting an expanded label for using our ultrasound system. We intend to do this with other antibiotics. We've also done procedures with other antibiotics to date, principally ceftazidime and vancomycin. We also believe the system can deliver biologics and monoclonal antibodies, as well as oncolytics in the same subcutaneous, localized, ultrasonic dispersed fashion. There's quite a lot of oomph to this beyond just working in anti-infectives. Our initial focus, as I said, however, is in the local delivery antibiotics. We've done over 100 procedures to date with a 97% success rate, zero observed serious adverse events. We've done these in multiple indications. We actually treated 14 different indications in bone and tissue infections. No drug reformulation is required, making it easy for regulatory purposes and for manufacturing. And we have extremely favorable economics with gross margins predicted to be between 95 and 97%, as well as significant economics for the healthcare industry in terms of significant savings off the reduction of cost of the existing standard of care. The UD2 procedure is a one-time, 10-minute procedure that replaces often weeks of IV antibiotics. Our initial focus is in infected chronic wounds, very, very large international markets, and growing rapidly, sadly, as a result of the increase of superbugs, as well as the increase in diabetes across the globe, leading to more venous ulcers, diabetic foot ulcers, and diabetic foot infections. The procedure itself is simple and safe and takes about 10 minutes. Conscious or local sedation. The drug is then delivered subcutaneously in aliquots around the infection, and then the infection is then massaged for 2 to 3 minutes with our proprietary ultrasound. That's it. A quick comparison between us and the standard of care for our initial indication in diabetic foot infections. Existing standard of care with a diabetic, particularly a refractory diabetic foot infection, 5 to 7 days in the hospital. 5 to 7 days of in-home IV treatment every 12 hours, followed by 2 weeks of oral antibiotic therapy at a total cost of approximately $30,000. Our procedure, an outpatient, one-time, 10-minute procedure with 2 weeks of telemedicine follow-up. Patient does not need to be seen again in clinic after the procedure is done. This has been successful 97% of the times we've done it in over 140 procedures at a cost of approximately $7,000. This is an example of just one patient. You can see the significant infection in her massive diabetic foot ulcer. This woman was treated with MRSA, her infection culture with MRSA. She was treated one time with a single 10-minute UD2 procedure using Cefazolin. Within hours, the clinical signs of infection abated. Within days, they were gone. Within weeks, the wound was healed. We're a little bit odd in the sense here for a device conference. We are not a device business. We are a specialty pharmaceutical business that uses devices to allow our indications to happen. So our business model is to sell procedure kits, which contain the drug with the expanded label and all of the parts necessary to do a single procedure. So that would be a drug-device combination with Cedar as our lead agency, and are cross-labeled to our proprietary ultrasound. We already use a 510(k) approved ultrasound device. We'll have to get a de novo approval to use that device as a drug delivery device. We get to market quickly. We believe we can get to market with our first indication, diabetic foot infections, in 2.5 to 3 years post-funding, at an estimated cost of approximately $20 million, which is very low given the size of the potential multi-billion-dollar market here in the US and abroad for just our first indication. We believe with conservative assumptions, we'll be selling somewhere approximately $70 million 3 years post-approval just in the US. These markets are even bigger than in the US in China, India, and the Middle East, where diabetic foot infections are exploding. We have an experienced team, and I point out David Armstrong here. Some of you may know David. He's a limb salvage expert who seems to get around quite a lot in this field. He's a fabulous guy. In fact, we just got our first IRB approval to run a pilot study, which we're starting in the next several weeks at USC with David. At one of our major academic collaborators, USC, we also collaborate with Hartford Hospital Center for Anti-Infective Research, as well as a Tufts School of Medicine. So we're seeking a $3 million seed round to be immediately followed by a $20 to $25 million Series A. Part of the seed round has already been raised. We intend to close that, we hope, in the next 60 to 90 days. And following immediately on that, on the heels of that, a Series A round. So I thank you all for your time.